Guys, check this out. Maher clashes with Cuomo over Dave Chappelle stand-up special. Take a listen.
Well, I defended him.
I know.
I'm Team Dave.
Why?
And free speech. Well, first of all, you say going after. You use terms like homophobia. I was speaking recently about phobia. There's a word that's traveled quite a bit from its original meaning. A lot of mission creep on that word, phobia. It's become really just a way a word they use to say, I don't like something.
That's right. It's not a fear.
Phobia means an irrational fear. You know, spiders, arachnophobia. You know, you have an irrational fear. Okay, germophobia. I see all the hand sanitizers here. To me, that would be germophobia.
But those are only for shaking hands with me.
I see, which I never was worried about, and still am not. But he's not afraid of homosexuals.
Right.
Or it's not transphobic. It's that this trans stuff is very new. I don't think he or myself or any other, again, right-thinking person thinks there aren't such things in the world as people who are trans, who are born in a body that doesn't align with what their brain is telling them. That's okay. But now we're talking about children. It's interesting. Someone I know, a woman in her 40s, said to me somewhat recently at a dinner party that when she was a kid, she was what they used to call a tomboy. She said, I never was interested in wearing a dress. I only wore pants until I was like 14 or 15. She said, if I was around today, they would have made me into a boy here in California. That's what we're talking about. This is new. So don't put it into this category of this is settled science. Anything that deviates from the one true opinion on this means you're some horrible bigot and transphobic. That's not what's going on here. And I don't think Dave Chappelle is transphobic. I mean, a lot of that special is talking about his opening act.
Right.
Who's trans? Okay? It's just like, can we take a breath? Maybe we are going too far with the children part of this. You know, kids should not be really making decisions about their gender. I mean, Mario Lopez was almost canceled for suggesting that maybe 3-year-olds shouldn't decide their gender. This is not crazy stuff that makes you a bigot.
That is so true. That is so true. So it means a little bit in the 40s, if it was back in these days, and she always tried like to dress like a tomboy, they would have changed her gender color like a guy, probably trans. Yeah, that is really true. Just stay put, guys. Let me bring you more videos on this. Just stay right here, guys. Let me continue with this video. Just stay right here.
Being male is toxic, or just being white is toxic. You know, your whiteness, and it's like, what are you talking about? You know, I've always tried to be an ally. That's what a lot of people are saying, and now you're coming after me. You know, this whole idea of like, you have two choices. You're either a racist or you're a racist and you don't know it. You know, people who have lived a right-thinking life their whole life, that's not their thing. Why are you coming after me? You know, have I turned my life over to this issue? No, but I can't. I have a job and kids and a wife and stuff to do. You know, I can't do that. Now, Josh Hawley is a dangerous guy. Let's get to the essence of Josh Hawley. He's not wrong about this particular issue, but it's minor to someone who does not acknowledge what happened on January 6th. A much bigger question is, what do you do when there are people in our government who don't believe in our form of government? And he is one of them.
He'll say, no, I believe in it. January 6th was bad and wrong, said and settled. You guys are only upset about it because you get to use it as a cudgel, but you didn't care about the black people and their allies running around burning down all those cities the summer before.
Well, it's a false comparison, and it wasn't the Capitol. And they weren't
That is true. That is
trying to stop a duly elected officer at the highest level of government from taking office. I mean, it's a pretty sobering thought that the Republican with the most backbone was Mike Pence.
But for Pence, it could have been a very different
Yes.
scenario, by the way.
I mean, when I mention Liz Cheney now, and the audience claps, I'm like, oh, we love her now. Isn't that interesting?
Depends.
And I see why.
Let's see if she goes after Biden a couple more times. But then again, who knows how long she's around in
That's
her own
okay.
primary.
That's her job to go after Biden. That's what Republicans do. They go after. I mean, we did that forever. Republicans and Democrats were cats and dogs, and they fought. But also, Tip O'Neill and Reagan could have a drink after work. They could work together. I don't know how we're ever going to work together. How do you? We have how many QAnon members of Congress now? QAnon. I mean, Marjorie Taylor.
You're right. You got him.
How do you negotiate with people who think the Democrats eat babies?
That's right.
Where does that negotiation?
That's an obvious problem. I think the bigger problem, and
Yeah. How do you negotiate with people who think Democrats eat babies? Yeah, that's so true.
take a break and then we'll discuss about this, is what goes unsaid, that people won't stand up. I believe the pandemic for us was a low point on a lot of different levels. We made ourselves sick on purpose. And then we kept ourselves there. I want to talk to you because you have a very interesting take on the whole situation. One more break. When we come back, Bill Maher on where we are. Last topic, we made ourselves sick. That's what the pandemic's about. What does Bill Maher think about it? We made ourselves sick, literally and figuratively. Pandemic comes, people tell us, okay, it's going to be here. There are going to be a lot of cases. Let's prepare. The top echelon of government, our president says, nah, it's not going to be that bad. We'll be fine. It will disappear in a few cases. Of course it doesn't. But it created a line where now we see it almost exclusively on the basis of politics. Who buys into things about COVID and the treatment and the facts? Who doesn't? How do you see it?
Well, you said we made ourselves sick. The bigger issue that is never discussed is that we were sick. You know, before you get sick, you are sick. This is a very sick country, still is. I don't mean mentally, although that too, but physically. And why don't you talk about that? I mean, there is, let's call it factor X. If there was a factor that was responsible for 78% of the COVID deaths and hospitalizations, wouldn't you have to really journalistically report that?
The comorbidities.
I'm talking about obesity.
Mm-hmm.
People in the media, people in the government are afraid to even mention it. Again, 78%, 88% of worldwide deaths are in high obesity countries. 40% of COVID deaths are people with diabetes. And yet, no one will mention it. I do. But they hate me for it.
I talk about it, but you're right. It's not the
Yeah, it's a good thing as you mentioned it, Bima.
prevailing narrative.
You cannot. People have got to participate in their health. I said this before the pandemic. I said, we will never get health care right in this country. I don't care if you take Bernie Sanders' health care plan, Elizabeth Warren's health care plan, Joe Biden's. Nothing is going to work, and it wasn't working, unless people understand that they have some skin in the game. They have to participate in their own health. You can't expect just vaccines and pills or whatever else they have to do the job. And we never do that in this country. The last person who tried was Michelle Obama. And it did not go over well.
When we talk again, 8 months from today, hopefully we'll talk a lot before then. 8 months from today, do you think things are better or worse?
Well, they're not going better for Biden and the Democrats, and I think that's 8 months is going to be close to the midterm election. I think they're going to get thumped in the election. I mean, that usually happens in midterm elections, but Joe, look, I'm glad he's there, but he has not exactly stuck the landing on a lot of the issues that he was dealing with. The time I'm worried about, that I keep talking about, is Election Day 2024. Until January 20th, 2025, Inauguration Day. Because again, if Trump loses, he will not say he lost. That will never happen. He will never concede, as I said last time. But this time, it's not going to be like last time. I mean, he almost pulled it off last time. And this time, he's had 4 years to get those people in place. So what happens on January 20th, 2025, when he shows up for the inauguration? and Joe Biden or whoever the Democrat is shows up for that inauguration. What happens then? That's when I want to be, on vacation in London.
That is really, really funny. That is really funny. That is so true. Bima makes a good point. Really, really, really good and interesting point. I was kind of looking for the video. Yeah, this is a video of Bima and Dave Chappelle. Yeah, I was kind of looking for this video.
He is perhaps best known for Real Time with Bill Maher,
Let's
19th
take a look.
season on HBO, which, like CNN, as you know, is owned by Warner Media. He continues his comedy tour in cities all over the country and with good reason. In his first appearance on TV, in the days after the 9/11 attacks, Bill Maher asked a question: can we change? Now, I think that question is hovering over our nation more than ever, and it is a pleasure to welcome back to Primetime. It's good to see you.
Great intro, thanks.
Thank you very much. I didn't write it, but I read it like a champ.
You really did.
The question
And
is,
you went to 9/11 and you didn't say what they usually said about 9/11, me getting canceled.
that was pre-canceled.
Right, but that was a much more interesting question that I asked that you cited. Can we change?
Well, because that's what you were getting at.
Right.
I believe in giving people the benefit of context. And I lived through what happened with what you talked about after 9/11. And of course, someone who echoed and greatly upped the ante of what you were saying about the United States military was Donald Trump. And it worked out just fine for him. Remember him with Bill O'Reilly when O'Reilly was talking to him about Putin and said, this guy's a murderer. He goes, what about us? We're so good.
Yeah.
Now, that was an order of magnitude different than what you had said. The question about can we change, I remember it as an appeal of you saying, we've done things in a way that has provoked animus. Can we do better? We are now doing things in a way that provokes animus. Do you think we can change?
The evidence is not really good for that. I don't think we're on a great trajectory. I keep trying to preach on my show that the thing we have to do long range is stop the hate that goes on in this country. The two sides hate each other to such a degree. I don't think anybody's hearing each other. When people hate each other, it doesn't matter.
Thank you, Bima. Thank you. Let's definitely stop the hate on hating each other as a country as a whole, from the Democrats to the Republicans. It's just something like if you look at it in the Republican Party, we have the MAGA folks, the Trump Proud Boys, doing a lot of extreme crazy stuff. So let's definitely stop the hate.
What the policies are. Democrats, I think, keep thinking they can somehow break through to the people who hate them and don't vote for them, would not vote for a Democrat. Anyone with a D next to their name is just completely toxic. If they just tinker with the policies, we'll give you health care, we'll give you some things that absolutely seem to benefit the people they're talking to. They constantly ask that question. Why do Republicans vote against their economic interests? Because they hate you. Because they really hate you. Look at the election we just had in Virginia. The Democrats lost some of those rural counties by 80%. We don't do 80%, or we never used to in America. A landslide was a guy got 58% of the vote. That's what made us great. And you saw in other countries, Castro got 99% of the vote, we would laugh. Well, I don't doubt that the Republicans were getting 80% of the vote in some of those counties. I think in 45 of them, they got over 70% of the vote. That is beyond policy. And until we figure that out, until you figure out.
Meet Philo, the $25 a month way to watch live and on-demand TV, made for TV fans. And
why they hate us so much, and obviously it comes back the other way. When people hate you, you tend to hate them. We're never going to fix any of the problems in this country.
Let's question the premise for a second and then continue the discussion. Has it always been this way? They win the exurbs, which is what we now call rural. Democrats win the urban, and the fight becomes over the suburbs. Is it really any different than the typical notion of a third are for you, a third are against you, and you fight for that other third? Have things